Right, well, hello there. We are back. Yah sitting here looking glorious in his crown. Oh my goodness. It is Tuesday, December the 22nd, 2020, and last night being the crowning of Jupiter with the rings of Saturn. What you're looking at on the screen is a photograph of the app from my phone as it was occurring. This was at 8 o'clock last night our time. And Yah took a video using his phone of what my phone was picking up from the app at the instant of the conjunction. Tilgham, Queensland, Australia time, it was 8 p.m. And this is what it looked like. You've got Jupiter, the king planet, that's the Jesus planet, that's the Yah planet, being crowned by the rings of Saturn. It's stunning. Now this was from my app. What was appearing live, I'll show you from a screen capture of what was taking place on the TV or the YouTube at the time, was contrary to what we captured, of course. But yeah, so this is what it looked like. Now there's significance of last night's alignment between Jupiter and Saturn and the perfection of it as was captured on the first slide. Again, it cannot be overstated. We say this a couple of times. What has happened in the heavenlies does play out on the earth, and as much as we had fun this morning, and you will see in the next slides what we did here in the office, it is a physical crowning that will take place, and we're just having some fun this morning as we anticipate the events of the next few days. Now, Yah yesterday on the 21st of December 2020, I said to him in the morning, I said, well, how old are you today? So he goes to his computer and works it out exactly. And he says, well, I'm, as you all know, on December the 18th, he was 77.7 years of age from conception. So yesterday, as this alignment is occurring, he says, well, I'm 77.71 years of age from conception. And then I say, well, that just happened to be the astronomical unit distance when measuring from Jupiter to the outer planets at the instant of your rebirth, January the 11th, 1944 at 2:22 a.m. Take a look at this. Now, most of you are familiar with this slide. It contains so much sacred information that this one slide of Yah's measuring should be enough for all of the world to go, oh my God, it's him. So yeah, take a look at that, measuring Jupiter to the outer planets of Pluto, 32.67, Neptune, 26.6, and Uranus, 18.44 astronomical units. They all total 77.71 astronomical units, Yah's age, yesterday as this alignment. Perfection of this alignment was occurring. And of course, the measuring from Jupiter to the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, the Earth, with Saturn added, totals 31.68 astronomical units. However, if you take Saturn out, they totaled 24.24 astronomical units, which of course is Jesus. In the Greek concordance, you go and look up the number 2424 in the James Strong's Greek concordance, and it is the number listing for Jesus. So this the measuring of Yah's creation. That's what he has done since the tools were given into his hand in the early 1990s from BC, Canada. This is where his revelation began. You've got tools. What are they? Well, first of all, the Chris Epps CompuBible program. Yah paid $1,000 for it, an enormous amount of money then for Yahweh and for anybody, but $1,000. So what is it saying? Yah paying the price as always for the millennial reign of the Christ. Just to clarify, Yah's here. He's the author of the script, if you like, so he can change. Many people are talking about the 1,000-year reign of the Christ, and then the devil is released at the end. No, he cancelled that once here. No, this is it. Why would he release Satan to come back with all of its minions? And according to Adam, that's what they were counting on. Adam actually said when they realized that this is their last chance, they're out of here after that, that produced the prolonging of this time now. They would fight to the bitter end had the script not been altered, and that's the art of war. You know, you don't tell your enemy what you're doing, and you always said, well, I'm down here now, I can alter the script any way I like. And that was the alteration. This is their end. No being released at the end of 1,000 years. Adam said otherwise they'd have handed it over to you. Here, go for it. We'll be back in 1,000 years. No way has they. So, Yah pulling a art of war on him. So you can, if you're seeing this for the first time, study all of these measures and these numbers. It's all about the Christ. Brian Leonard, Go Lightly, Marshall, 3:12. Right, so continuing our conversation with yesterday, the events of yesterday, and after I said to Yahweh, you know, your age today is the measure to the outer planets from Jupiter. And he said to me, I always wondered, it kind of, did it irritate you? Because,
a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
I thought I made a mistake.
Yeah. Well, as you all know, those who've been following, he will be the perfection of 77.77 years of age from conception on his birthday, now just weeks away, January the 11th in 2021. But it always irked him. Why just 77.71 astronomical units to the outer planets? Well, of course, you know, the light bulb went on yesterday. Ding, 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 ding. This is why, this perfection of the alignment between Jupiter and Saturn.
Just zero, it would have been last week.
Yes.
So
Everything in perfect alignment. Yesterday, 21st of December, the alignment between Jupiter and
So you
Saturn.
have the ultimate religion, truth.
Truth, yes. Yeah.
The truth will set you free, some wise man once said.
Yeah. Now, I want to point out on the sacredness of this slide. There's a, what is it? Find Waldo. There's a Waldo in here. It's actually an omission, and I know that I know that I'd caught it before on another, and there was a correction made, but this particular one is the uncorrected slide. But not going to tell you what it is. You know. For those who have been watching long enough, will should be able to figure it out. But yeah, it's all part of the DVD. And the next slide behind it, with all of this information that Yah has put into this one slide, you go to the TV capture of what was being shown on the YouTube, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing. It's just...
They've got a space shuttle And all the telescopes of the earth looking at it.
Yes.
You can't get a clear shot.
And they came up with what is on the next slide. So,
Well, it tells you how far it was away too.
well, it was 4.88. Your measure, 4.88.
That's right.
Yes.
They confirmed it with the width of the earth of these telescopes looking back
Mm-hmm.
space, right from Mount Graham to South America, 15.
Yeah.
To Parks in the sky.
Right, so moving right along to the next slide. All right, so this is what was shown on the screen. It must have been the YouTuber live capture of the event, and as you can see, it's from that perspective that they're showing it. They're missing.
Well, that's a satellite shot from the Cassini probe that went around Jupiter and Saturn years ago.
Right.
I got the angle wrong. You can't see that kind of angle from Earth.
Right. And so they're missing entirely the beauty of this and the significance of the alignment. Now, you said, yeah, that you went back in your program, and this has the perfection of this in the shot we showed in the first instance has never occurred.
Never occurred before in creation.
Hmm. So yes, see the angel. This screen sits atop our piano, the grand piano. We have a couple of angels to the right of the screen there. The extent of our Christmas decorations this year, a bit of tinsel, and two angels, figurines to the right of the screen. But yeah, so this is what was happening behind us. As we'll go back to what was happening in front of us outside. We could see the lineup as it was physically happening above the tree line in our backyard, the very, very distant glow. It had been very cloudy, and it was still quite cloudy, but the clouds parted for us to be able to see what was going on at the instant. And then my Skyview app caught the perfection of the alignment as it was occurring. The significance of it cannot be overstated. The cross in our backyard to the right, and Yah's hand is covering the cross. He's taking again a video of what is appearing on my phone using the Skyview app. And this is what the cross looked like, the old rugged cross. It was exactly 2 years before, so a 2-year delta, if you like. It was December the 18th. No, not December the 18th. It was December the 21st, 2018, that we raised the cross that Yah built, life size. This is the size of the cross of 33 AD. And my placard this time, Jesus was an Essene. So it's looking a bit weary. The foil that has covered the cross, of course, we've had many high winds this year. And there was actually lots of winds last night too, through the night, the winds of change. The flame tree having bloomed just this year, so prominent in the background there. And the torch lights at the base of the cross, 4 of them, with the 2 lamp lights shining on the cross. So this is what our backyard looked like last night at this really important conjunction. The Christ, the Christmas star. Yes, it is. Not the Star of Bethlehem, but the Christ Mass star. Putting the Christ back in Christmas. and the crowning of Jupiter, the king planet, with the rings of Saturn. Now this morning, the 22nd of December, these are the lip-ons of mass destruction, pronounced over Yah. The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. Of course, that is Yahweh, Jesus, Brian, Leonard, Golightly, Marshall. So that was pronounced this morning in the office, and I placed a crown on Yah. From the internet, the lightning over the crown, and this looks very much like the storm upon Jupiter, the electrical storm playing out upon Jupiter. But anyway, with a bit of fun this morning as I crowned Yah with not only lightning, however, a hat that looks very like Jupiter, and handmade, and this was presented to Yah. We have two of them, one for himself and one for myself. A handmade, hand-woven from the village in Papua New Guinea that received Yah as the Christ, going back to 2015 through 16, 17, the number of times that he visited there, and they treated him as the Christ. Beautiful, humble, meek people, noble, and his village. Now this video is actually about writings of Caiaphas found within the Archco volume. We've read his letter before, his account of what occurred after the resurrection and Jesus appearing to him. However, he wrote a series of letters before that particular one, and Yah just wants the world to know that the letters from the Archco volume will be part of the newly edited Bible, if you like, that will be put together by Yahweh, under the advisement of Yahweh, reprinted on hemp paper. It will include Yahweh's workings and revelations using the Chris Epps CompuBible translation that was given into his hand at the beginning of the revelation in the early 1990s. And Yah says, if you don't like it, you can smoke it. But getting into the Archco volume, it was denounced, of course, by the Red Sea pedestrians when it was first translated, where Caiaphas was troubled by his actions in condemning Jesus to death. He had, after the crucifixion, ordered he was not to be disturbed, went into his office with his wife and father-in-law. The city was in an uproar after the death of Jesus, and then we've already read the account where suddenly in his office Jesus appeared to him and rebuked him. He had an evil heart, or a wicked heart. So that letter is read at the toward the end of this presentation. But there were other letters that he wrote before that account, and where he's blaming Pilate for crucifying Jesus, and he really gets caught out because he wrote a letter of, you know, these are all the points on which I find him guilty and why he must be taken care of for all these reasons. And it just backs up what Yah has been proclaiming all along about the laws of Moses and how he condemned them as Jesus and Abraham and circumcision and all of these things. So, but Caiaphas ends up blaming Pilate. When you read the Pilate account and realize what a noble man he was, and he was certainly the friend of Jesus, trying to protect him, and but it was all a setup by the priesthood who had Barabbas. as the prisoner in the dungeon below, if you like. So as the crowd were chanting to release Yahweh, his nickname being Bar, meaning son of, Abba, they're crying out, who, you know, as Pilate's going, well, who should I release? And they're going, Barabba, 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 Barabba. And Pilate, not understanding, go, is there a Barabbas? Have we got a Barabbas somewhere? And of course the priesthood, knowing that they had planted Barabbas as the prisoner to be released, the thief and the murderer. And that's why, as Jesus Yah said nothing, it had to be. And Pilate and Caiaphas were playing into the hand of God, literally. They couldn't get out of it. But it's funny to read now of Caiaphas' defense of himself. This is why I did it. And then shifting the blame entirely over to Pilate. And is why when Yah did appear to him, he said, there is one thing but wrong with you. You have a wicked heart that you need to repent of. And we read why. Shifting the blame, if you like. Backside. Yah says, as we might expect, the first letter was written by Caiaphas' scribe. Therefore, he was not in the locked office. The scribe wasn't in the locked office when Jesus turned up after he'd already written a couple of letters, it turns out, which seemed to go AWOL, according to the script. But anyway, let's... So Yah says, we have a period of time where Caiaphas had concluded he had to write to Babylon as a plea of his own defense for Jesus' death. After this, Jesus appeared to him. Okay, so yeah. Now, the letter would take... well, it was 500 miles between Jerusalem and Babylon.
Could be weeks or a round trip, right?
Yes, and
to get his answer.
Yes, so the timing of
2 weeks to get there, a day in judgment, 2 weeks to get back. It's about a lunar month.
If it was going by horseback, though, it would be a lot quicker.
No, it's about right. They got to rest, don't they?
Yeah, but
we're being kind.
Okay, all right. Okay, so it might have, yeah. You're right, absolutely. Okay, so a month to get his story right, but he was visited by the risen Jesus that we'll read about. In the meantime, in the script, in John 18:14, Caiaphas said in reference to Jesus that it was expedient that one man should die for the people, quoting Jeremiah. So here is Caiaphas. It's expedient that one man should die for the people. Then in John 18:24, now Annas had sent him bound unto Caiaphas, the high priest. So Annas was his father-in-law.
Yeah, he had to step down because now Caiaphas has taken his position.
Right.
That year.
In the first letter, he writes the reasons. So, yeah, this is really funny. They all know what Yah's been teaching the world for so long. Moses is BS, Abraham, it's all BS, circumcision is not from him. And anyway, so this is now Caiaphas. Jesus had announced Abraham, circumcision, the laws of Moses, and the temple being of no consequence. On this point, we see that Jesus had entered the temple, overturned the money changers, and cast out the men who sold sacrificial animals. And then you can read all about it in Mark 11:17. And he taught, saying unto them, is it not written, my house shall be called of all nations the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves. And Yah points out that the house of God was God being Jesus. The Father and I are one. So think of the temple as the earth today. The money changers overturned. So this is an abstract from the letter written by Caiaphas to the Sanhedrin in Babylon before Jesus appeared to him in his locked office, quoting, it became my So I'm going to read it with the angst that Caiaphas was feeling at the time. It became my painful duty to send him to Pontius Pilate with the following charges. Caiaphas, high priest of the Most High God, to Pontius Pilate, governor of the Roman province. Jesus of Nazareth is thus charged by the High Court of the Jews. First, with teaching the doctrine that there are more gods than one, which is contrary to the teaching of the Jewish law, and he most positively refuses to desist in the presence of this court. Now, I want to, this is Ash explaining on behalf of Yah here. That does not mean that there are many gods. From the Jewish perspective, Jesus, as the Son of God, was equating himself to God. Therefore, from their perspective, they were teaching that Jesus was another God from their perspective. Well, the fact that Jesus was God, they missed that completely. However, it really upset them because he came as God and not the God that they were expecting. So therefore he was preaching more gods than one. There are not many gods out there. There never have been. There is only one God who came to the earth as Jesus and then is back again as Yahweh. All right. Secondly, he teaches that he is a God. I just explained that's from his perspective, what he is discerning of all of this. All of which is contrary to the Jewish law, and he is visible and comprehensible. And after being required to writings of the Talmud 97, whatever that means, desist by this court, most positively affirms that he is the Son of God. Third, he teaches and affirms that the bath hole this is really, that the bath hole, in brackets, Holy Spirit, Yah says no, Holy Ghost, can't come until he goes away. But you can read that in John 14, 15 and 16, which is contrary to the teachings of the Jews. How do you do a Yiddish accent? We have a bit of a Yiddish accent going on here. It's contrary to the teachings of the Jews, because it was he that brooded over the waters. No? I know I can't do it. I'm hopeless like that. You can, though.
I can't do it.
No, but you can do Pakistani. That would be good enough.
No,
because it was he that brooded over the waters and has been the spiritual light of the world ever since, from all of which he refuses to desist. He teaches baptism as the seal of God instead of circumcision, which was established by the decrees of God with Abraham as the seal of the Jews. And when he abjured to desist by the order of this court, affirmed that he would not. He teaches asceticism, self-discipline, as the means of salvation, contrary to the Jewish custom, and affirmed in the presence of this court he would not desist. He teaches the Levitical ablution as of no service, while we hold that the outward washing is the sign of inward purity, and when abjured to desist, he emphatically refused. He has abrogated the ordinance given by God to Moses of the Paschal Supper, wherein we should roast the lamb and eat it with unleavened bread. But Jesus has introduced a different thing, altogether different, without any authority. He has inaugurated common bread and wine, which is not only forbidden, but is well qualified to excite men's passions and make them forget God rather than to remember and trust him. This feast having been introduced, that we should remember to trust him in the hours of trouble. That's from the 98 Archaeological and Historical Talmud. He continues, he has established this in the place of it, and the wine is well qualified to make us forget. When asked why he did this, all he would say was, hitherto I work, and my Father's works. So it just goes to show how they've immediately, obviously because it's something that they do, is that they can't think of a sip of wine, do this in remembrance of me, the sip, right? Not the guzzling of tankers of it or bottles or barrels of it. He's immediately gone to, it'll make me, which is where the self-discipline part, he teaches self-discipline. They obviously don't have. So in the mind, they immediately go, everybody will get drunk. When you don't even sip wine.
Don't drink it.
No, neither do I. And and the sip is a sip.
You would sip it then.
Oh, that's a coffee. That's different. You want some? All right, moving right along here. So. Oh, here we go. Continuing in the vein of Caiaphas. Did you get your shirt? Well, yes, there's no sugar in it. As you know, I don't have sugar. He has abrogated the priesthood and set the temple at naught, which is the very life's blood of the Jewish faith. Were it not that God, our Father, has given us these holy ordinances, that we would not be so tenacious for them. But when we know they are the pillars upon which the Jewish theocracy is built, and that we can't live without them, and when Jesus of Nazareth has been adjured time and again to stop teaching these ways of death, he has as often declared he would not. Therefore it devolves on me as the proper and the only officer to pronounce sentence upon him. So, bottom line is it was Caiaphas who sentenced Jesus to death, and then he comes in to shift the blame. He blames Pilate. Oh, it's really funny. But anyway, these charges were written by my scribe and sent with the officers to Pilate for his consent. Of course, I did not expect him to execute him as he did, but it seemed that the mob was so great that Pilate never received them. Of course, I expected Pilate to send Jesus back to me so I could send him to you for your approval. And if so, then I would proceed to try him with Urim and Thummim, with the regular lactees on guard, as our law requires. But it seemed that Pilate thirsted for his blood. And then he continues, like all guilty tyrants, he was afraid of his own shadow and wished to destroy everything that stood in his way of power. With these reasons for my actions, I submit the case which I am sure will be considered favourably by my masters of Israel. So this is in Babylon, the letters to go to Babylon. So he's sucking up to them big time, and he blames Pilate. Now, a lot of you will remember the account of Pontius Pilate. It's one that when you read it, first of all, you realise that he is a man of much greater honour than this piece of, than Caiaphas. And you read it and weep. He loved Jesus. So, he teach. Oh yes, okay. So this is a repeat. Read that. Yeah, this is.
He became a Christian, and his wife already was.
Yes.
She was English.
Yes, Pilate's wife. Yes, yes. So all of this was actually put together by the Reverend W.D. Mahan of Boonville and Montana. And yes, many have tried to debunk it, but it doesn't work. So Yah says Caiaphas had a problem. First, he denied he had crucified Jesus. He had written to Babylon explaining his actions, and then it was discovered by W.D. Mahan. The following, he writes, Caiaphas to the Sanhedrin, resurrection and miracles. Caiaphas to the Sanhedrin on Jesus' resurrection. So these are the words of W.D. Mahan. Below was found wound in a scroll that had been in the archives of St. Sophia Mosque in Constantinople. It is believed that Muhammad had given orders to save all the Jerusalem Sanhedrin writings in a vault within this mosque. And so the below report of Caiaphas is written in what is known as the square Hebrew. The letters are from 1/2 inch to 1 inch high. It is read only with difficulty by the best Hebrew scholars. And it's Sanhedrin 89 by Sifri 2:7. So Yah writes, Jesus had yet to appear to Caiaphas in his locked office. And yet another letter. He admits he killed Jesus. And note the key point that the dead came out of the graves. So this is in the letter that we're about to read. Why? The Father, the soul of Jesus, the Christ, had descended into hell, there opening the cells of the righteous, releasing them to be seen walking alive in Jerusalem. So the letter goes, to you, masters of Israel, as I have made a former defense to you, and you have approved the same, I feel in duty bound to communicate to you some facts that have come to my knowledge since that communication. So that indicates to me, because look, I've written to you and you've already...
No, he's convinced they will agree.
Oh, right. So it's more pressure on them to make sure they agree with his assessment. Okay.
He's taken for granted you will agree.
Right. A few days after the execution of Jesus of Nazareth, the report of his resurrection from the dead became so common that I found it necessary to investigate it, because the excitement was more intense than before, and my own life, as well as that of Pilate, was in danger. I sent for Malchus, the captain of the royal city guard, who informed me he knew nothing personally, as he had placed Isham in command of the guard. But from what he could learn from the soldiers, the scene was awe-inspiring, and the report was so generally believed that it was useless to deny it. He thought my only chance was to suppress it among the soldiers and have John and Peter banished to Crete or arrested and imprisoned, and if they would not be quiet, to treat them as I had treated Jesus, in other words, condemn them to death. Or give them the curry treatment with the and thummin and Today we use cumin in the curry. Yes, I know it is. Oh. All right, here we go. Moving right along. He said that all the soldiers he had, so this is again Caiaphas reporting what Malchus had told him. He said that all the soldiers he had conversed with were convinced that Jesus was resurrected by supernatural power and was still living, and that he was no human being, for the light and the angels and the dead that came out of their graves all went to prove that something had happened that never occurred on earth before. He said that John and Peter were spreading it all over the country, and that if Jesus would appear at the head of a host and declare for the King of the Jews, he believed all the Jews would fight for him. I sent for the lieutenant, who gave a lengthy account of the occurrence that morning, all of which I suppose you have learned and will investigate. From this, I am convinced that something transcending the laws of nature took place that morning that cannot be accounted for upon natural laws, and I find it useless to try and get any of the soldiers to deny it, for they are so excited that they cannot be reasoned with. I regret that I had the soldiers placed at the tomb, for the very things that they were to prevent, they have helped to establish. After questioning the soldiers and officers to my satisfaction, my mind being so disturbed that I could neither eat nor sleep, I sent for John and Peter. They came and brought Mary and Joanna, who are the women that went to embalm Jesus' body the morning of the resurrection, as it is called. They were very interesting as they related the circumstances. Mary says that when they went, day was just breaking. They met the soldiers returning from the sepulchre and saw nothing strange until they came to the tomb and found it was empty. The stone that covered the sepulchre was rolled to one side, and two men dressed in flowing white were sitting, one at each end of the sepulchre. Mary asked them, where was her Lord? They said, he is risen from the dead. Did he not tell you he would rise the third day and show himself to the people to prove that he was the Lord of life? Go tell his disciples, said they. Joanna said she saw but one man, but the discrepancy must have been due to their excitement, because they say they were much alarmed. They both say that as they returned, they met the Master, who told them that he was the resurrection and the life. All that will accept shall be resurrected from the second death. We fell at his feet, all bathed in tears, and when we rose up, he was gone. Both these women wept for joy while relating these circumstances, and John shouted aloud, which made me tremble in every limb, for I could not help thinking that something that was the exclusive work of God had occurred. But what it all meant was a great mystery to me. It might be, I said, that God had sent this message by the mouth of this stranger. It might be that he was the seed of the woman, and we, his people, had executed him. So next is the Caiaphas letter to the Sanhedrin, the subject, Jesus' resurrection. So this is where Jesus appears to him. Below was found wound in a scroll that had been in the archives of St. Sophia Mosque in Constantinople. It is believed that Muhammad had given orders to save all the Jerusalem Sanhedrin writings in a vault within this mosque. The below report of Caiaphas is written in what is known as the Square Hebrew. Again,
You've already read that, haven't you?
yes, this is again the repeat. All right, I'll just.
Just go for it.
All right. Yeah, this is all over again. All right, so now moving right along to, I asked John and Peter if they could give me any further evidence in regard to this man, that I wished to be informed of his private history. Peter said that Jesus passed by where he was and bade him to follow him, and he felt attracted to him, but at first it was more through curiosity than anything in the man. That he soon became acquainted with Mary, who told him that he was her son, and related to him the strange circumstances of his birth, and that she was convinced that he was to be the King of the Jews. She spoke of many strange things concerning his life, which made Peter feel more interested in him than he would have been otherwise. He said that Jesus was a man so pleasant in his character, and so like a child in innocence, that no one could help liking him after he got acquainted with him, that though he seemed to be stern and cold, he was not so in reality, that he was exceedingly kind, especially to the poor, that he would make any sacrifice for the sick and needy, and would spare no effort to impart knowledge to anyone that would call on him, and that his knowledge was so profound that he had seen him interrogated by the most learned doctors of the law, and he always gave the most perfect satisfaction, and that the Sophir or scribes and the Hillites and Shammaites were afraid to open their mouths in his presence. They had attacked him so often and been repelled that they shunned him as they would a wolf. But when he repelled them, he did not enjoy the triumph as they did over others of whom they had gotten the ascendancy. As to his private life, he seemed not to be a man of pleasure nor of sorrow. He mingled with society to benefit it, and yet took no part at all in what was going on. I had heard many tell of what occurred when he was baptized, and from what his mother told me, I was watching for a display of his divine power, if he had any, and I knew he could never be King of the Jews unless he did have help from on high. Once when we were attending a marriage feast, the wine gave out, and his mother told him of it, and he said to the men to fill up some water pots that were sitting near, and they put in nothing but water, for I watched them. But when they poured it out, it was wine, for it was tasted by all at the feast. And when the master found it out, he called for Jesus to honor him. But he had disappeared. It seemed that he did not want to be popular, and this spirit displeased us, for we knew if he was to be king of the Jews, he must become popular with the Jews. His behavior angered his mother, for she was doing all she could to bring him into notice and to make him popular among the people, and the people could not help liking him when they saw him. Another peculiarity was that in his presence everyone felt safe. There seemed to be an almighty power pervading the air wherever he went, so that everyone felt secure and believed that no harm could befall them if Jesus were present. As we were in our fishing boat, I saw Jesus coming out toward us, walking on the water. I knew that if he could make the waves support him, he could also me. I asked him if I might come to him. He said to me to come, but when I saw the waves gathering around me, I began to sink and asked him to help me. He lifted me up and told me to have faith in God. On another occasion, we were sailing on the sea, and there was a great storm. It blew at a fearful rate, and all on board thought they would be lost. We awakened the master, and when he saw the raging of the storm, he stretched out his hand and said, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased to blow. The thunder stopped. The lightnings withdrew, and the billowing sea seemed as a babe in his mother's arms, all done in one moment of time. This I saw with my own eyes, and from that time I was convinced that he was not a common man.
So here we have Caiaphas relating what should be in the New Testament.
Yes, so this is Caiaphas relating what Malchus, who interviewed John and Peter, what they said about Jesus. So, yeah. Yes, so now Yah writes that the Vatican had hidden these accounts as the Church of Rome had assumed the seat as the vicar of Christ. Therefore, the reigning Pope became Christ, or God in the flesh. Therefore, invincibility must be maintained and could not allow any accounts to be revealed. Bottom line, Satan had taken over the Church of Rome. So yes, we've had the two letters, and next is you've got Dr. Mahan as he writes, the third. This is the one where Jesus appears to Caiaphas.
He's a reverend.
Reverend, that's right, reverend, yes. So, and he says, I hardly know whether to call it a resignation or a confession. One thing I know, it is one of the most solemn things I ever read in all my life. We thanked God that we had ever come to Constantinople and that Mohammed had given orders to preserve these sacred scrolls in the mosque of St. Sophia. See, Mohammed was taught by Catholics. He married, his first wife was Catholic. To you, masters of Israel. So he says again, as I have made a former defense to you, and you have approved the same, I feel in duty bound to communicate to you some facts that have come to my knowledge since the former communication. A few days after the execution of Jesus of Nazareth, the report of his resurrection from the dead became so prominent, I felt it was necessary to investigate it, because the excitement was raging more heavy than before, and my own life as well as that of Pilate was in danger, and it seemed worse than if he had not been apprehended at all. I sent for Malchus, captain of the royal guard, who informed me. Oh, this is the same one. Stop. Right, so this is the letter. This is the letter. I locked my door and gave the guard orders to let no one in without first giving me notice. While thus engaged, with no one in the room but my wife and Annas, her father, when I lifted up my eyes, behold, Jesus of Nazareth stood before me. My breath stopped. My blood ran cold, and I was in the act of falling when he spoke and said, "Be not afraid, it is I. You condemned me that you might go free. This is the work of my Father. Your only wrong is you have a wicked heart. This you must repent of. This last lamb you have slain is the one that was appointed before the foundation. This sacrifice is made for all men. Your other lambs were for those who offered them. This is for all. This is the last. It is for you if you will accept it. I died that you and all mankind might be saved." At this he looked at me with such melting tenderness that it seemed to me I was nothing but tears, and my strength was all gone. I fell on my face at his feet as one that was dead. When Annas lifted me up, Jesus was gone, and the door still locked. No one could tell when or where he went. So, noble masters, I do not feel that I can officiate as priest any more if this strange personage is from God, and should be the Saviour we have looked for so long, and I have been the means of crucifying him. I have no further offerings to make for sin, but I will wait and see how these things will develop, and if he proves to be the ruler that we are looking for, they will soon develop into something more grand in the future. His glory will increase. His strength will spread wider and wider until the whole earth shall be full of his glory, and all the kingdoms of the world shall be his dominion. Such are the teachings of the prophets on this subject. Therefore, you will appoint Jonathan or someone to fill the holy place. Okay, here we are having much fun this morning. I'm walking into the office with what I found in our closet there. Two just like this. Yah's crown. Was that back?
A Christmas cake.
Because it does look like a Christmas cake, but it certainly does look like Jupiter with the rings of Saturn around it.
Yeah.
Actually, we did. All right, I won't go there. But yeah, we've had some fun this morning as we anticipate Yah being crowned and the waves of energy that will go out around the earth, bringing healing to the nations.